Hey folks, today I'm here to talk about the latest offering from Cool Mini or Not, The Others. It's their latest Kickstarter funded miniatures Ameritrash extravaganza. It's for 2 to 5 players, plays in 60 to 90, asymmetrical. One guy's the big bad demons and the rest of the players are the heroes. Let's just jump right into it. I'll show you how it goes, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Setup begins with the hero players choosing their lineup of 7 dudes. The core box has a full complement of 7, but many more are available for purchase. Next, the Sin player chooses one of the 7 available Sins and one group of Acolytes. 2 Sins come in the core box, and the other 5 are available retail. Each Sin has a complement of 6 Abominations, 3 attack, 3 defense, 1 controller, 4 attack, 4 defense, and 1 avatar, which is the big dude. He's 7 attack, 7 defense. Acolytes added contain 6 figures and are 2 strength and 2 defense. As with the Sins, there is a wide range of Acolytes to choose from. Why choose a Sin and an Acolyte? Well, each Sin has an overarching effect on the game that ties in with the theme of the particular Sin. For example, Sloth slows you down, and Sin also has their own Sin deck. These are special cards the Sin player can play to mess with the heroes. These are also thematic with the Sin. Now it's time to decide what type of game to play, choosing the story. The storyboards list the objectives the heroes need to complete in order to win the game. They must go in order, and only things they accomplish for the current objective count. So if they have to kill a bunch of abominations in one round to accomplish the second objective, it won't matter how many they kill while they're on the first objective. The Sins player always has one objective to win. Keep killing heroes until they can't complement a full team of heroes. Is it going to be a terror story, a corruption story, or a redemption story? After you decide the story, you pick a map to play. There's 7 storyboards with 2 maps of each, just with the core box. Example of a terror story final objective is to kill the Avatar. After the heroes have progressed so far, the Avatar spawns on the map for the first time, and he needs to die. Corruption stories focus on corruption and ridding the city of corruption. Dark Past cards are used for these types of stories. To me, these Dark Past cards kind of remind me of Death Curses from Arcadia Quest. Now, redemption stories involve saving the city, rescuing and protecting innocent people. These tokens represent innocence, and if a hero is carrying one of these and he maxes out his corruption, then he murders them. When the type of story is chosen, then the accompanying Apocalypse deck is selected. These get drawn by the Sins player during the game, usually as a result of the Apocalypse track moving at least 1 space every round. This is the game's timer. These bring Hell Club members onto the board to mess with the heroes in other ways, like making the monsters tougher or stronger. Now, the Hell Club acts like any other monster under the Sins control, with his own stats and special ability on the Apocalypse card. However, when these Hellraiser demons are killed, they don't get to respawn like everything else. The amount of variety is incredible in this game, from the type of Sin, to the story type, to the map type, to the kind of Acolyte, to the hero lineup. The possibilities are really endless. So the map of the chosen story will have the placement of all the monsters to start out the game. It's usually all the Acolytes, Abominations, and the 1 controller. The Avatar usually enters in the 3rd act, maybe even earlier. These maps also show where all the tokens get placed. There are symbols matching the tokens on the map tiles. These are permanent and cannot be removed or cleansed, as it's called. Fire might burn you when you enter or leave a space with a fire token or fire symbol if one of these are rolled by the Sins player. That's right, the city is on fire and it's dangerous to travel around. These are called fire checks, and the Sins player rolls 1 dice for every fire symbol. Hits don't get absorbed by a defense value like in combat. Corruption tokens work in the same way. except that the Sins player rolls dice for each corruption symbol, and these add corruption to a hero. If a hero stays in the same space, nothing happens. It's only when the space is entered or exited. These pentagram tokens add 1 dice to the Sins player's attack roll for any fight in these spaces. These are altars. For every one of these in a space that doesn't also have a hero in the same space, gives the Sin a Sin card at the end of the round. These are nests, spawn points to bring back dead monsters at the end of each round. NPCs, innocent bystanders, orbital strike, and they benefit the hero players. These NPCs can be picked up as a free action at any time during a hero's turn and apply the benefits. The cop gives the hero +1 attack. The hacker dude lets the hero ignore the first fire and corruption damage taken from moving. There is no limit to the amount of NPCs a hero can have, and they can freely drop them off for another hero to pick up. This is the orbital strike token. The heroes will be able to move this around the board, blowing up monsters with it. These are subways, which are basically portals to jump around the board. Reds go to red, and blues go to blue. On each storyboard, there will be a start of round rules, usually adding fire, corruption, nest, and pentagram tokens to the board. Usually they have to be placed on different spaces, but that's the only restriction. Now the heroes start the game. The hero players can decide which hero they want to start first, and then they must activate in a clockwise order. This can change up at the start of every round. You can always pick which is going to be the starting hero. Each hero has 2 of these turn tokens. Once he activates his hero, he flips 1 over to show it's been used. On his or her turn, a hero can move and then do an action, or do an action and then move. A movement is up to 2 spaces. There are 2 actions a hero can do: start a fight and cleanse. Fighting kills monsters, and cleansing removes these harmful tokens. There are 2 types of spaces: district spaces, bordered in black, and street spaces, divided by crosswalks. There's no doors or anything. It's 1 move to go from here to here, and another to go to here. I'll cover fighting in a minute. It's the exact same procedure whether the Faith team starts or the Sin player starts it. Cleansing removes fire tokens, corruption tokens, nests, and pentagram tokens. The players roll dice equal to the I stat, gains a dice for each hero in the same space, and any bonus from upgrades and voluntary corruption he wants to take, which we'll get into in a second. For every success, the players can remove 1 token. Some tokens are permanently printed on the board. These are always in effect and can't be removed. There are also a couple of free actions available for the heroes that can be used at any point during a hero's activation, and that is putting the city action tokens on one of these district spaces and gaining all the benefits listed. You have to be in the district space to use it. These church symbols remove corruption from the hero. These give you any face-up upgrade card. 1 is immediately replaced after taking 1. These heal wounds. This lets you use the orbital strike, which lets you move this baby up to 2 spaces and blow away any abomination or acolyte in that space. Let's talk about upgrade cards for a second. This also gives me an Arcadia Quest vibe. Instead of leveling up at the end of a game and buying new weapons, the characters are leveling up during the game. The leveling up in Arcadia Quest is one of the most fun aspects of the game. It's fun customizing your dudes with new bling for the next time, attacking your buddies with all this cool new stuff you have. Being able to do that over the course of the game is a great way of emulating that feeling. This feels like an Eric Lang trait. The blue base guys can start a fight from a distance, any number of spaces in a straight line. Figures don't block line of sight. It lets them roll dice and apply damage before the Sin player gets to roll their dice. Any monsters that survive the attack then automatically move 2 spaces towards the shooters, and if they can land in his space, then the Sins player rolls dice against the range fight roll and compare. So when shooters are rolling 5 or 6 dice from upgrade cards, they are wiping the monsters off the map. But shooters can't use ranged combat in or out of district spaces. So when the ranged guys start powering up, it's time to take the fighting indoors. Now, the real cool feature of the game, it isn't hero turn, Sin turn, like a typical game. The heroes keep activating until the Sin player plays one of his reaction tokens after a hero is finished. The Sin player starts with 1 reaction token per hero, so 3 or 4 at the start of the game, whereas the heroes get 2 activation tokens. So the Sin player has to choose when he wants to jump in. The Sins player can acquire more of these throughout the game. If after hero is finished activating, the Sins player can jump in. Now, if a player happens to die, then the Sins player is not allowed to react. He can only use his token if the player fully finishes his turn. When the Sin player reacts, he flips his token over. He can move any monster up to 2 spaces and attack the hero that he's reacting to. You can't attack a different hero. But you don't have to attack. You can move any monster on the map anywhere you want. This is a good way to start positioning yourself for a better attack later. So this is how fights work, whether it's started by the Sins player or the hero player. The hero grabs dice equal to his fight stat, this number at the top of his card, adds any bonus dice from upgrade cards, gets 1 extra dice for every other hero in the same space. Then the hero chooses if he wants to take voluntary corruption. If he chooses to, he marks the next open corruption slot with a tentacle and gets the bonus underneath and every bonus before it that isn't covered up with wounds. The more corrupt you are, the more powerful the bonus. If this hero takes corruption, he gets an extra dice, an automatic hit, and a defense. I love this mechanic. It's like drawing on the power of the dark side, but don't go too far, because if it maxes out, your kill an innocent and taking further corruption is turned into wounds. Once the hero decides if he wants to take corruption, the Sins player may play a start of combat Sin card. The Sins player gets whatever the fight value of each monster is. So these 2 abominations and the avatar would roll 13 dice. There's strength in numbers for the Sins player. These acolytes all have a once around ability that involves them bringing a dead acolyte into the fight and adding the 2 extra dice for the new acolyte strength. You drop a marker on here to show it's been used. If there aren't any dead acolytes, then this ability can't be used. The hero totals his fists, shields, and anti-corruption. These eye symbols are nothing in combat. And the Sins player totals up his fists and tentacles. Every fist is a potential wound, and every tentacle is a potential force corruption. The monsters don't have a defense like the heroes do. This number shows how many wounds it takes to kill in one fight. Also, like Arcadia Quest, there is a burst symbol. If the Sins roll this fist with the burst, he gets to grab another dice and roll it and add it to the pool. If the heroes roll this sword thing, they get to grab another dice and roll it. After all the rolling is done, the hero player will spin these dice to any face he wants. So if he needs more shields based on what the Sins rolled, he can turn these things into shields. So time to compare results. The hero deducts 1 potential hit for every defense symbol they rolled, plus his base defense, whatever defense is added from taking voluntary corruption, and any upgrade cards. Whatever fists are left do wounds to the hero. A hero can take 5 wounds before he's dead. He places these hearts over top of corruption bonuses. So when he takes voluntary corruption, anything that's got a wound symbol over it doesn't get the benefit. The first wound always goes to the no effect. Everyone gets 1. Anti-corruption from dice, the last slot on voluntary corruption, and any upgrade cards deduct these tentacles. Any left over, add force corruption. If you're maxed out on corruption and you take more, they get converted into wounds. Fists on the hero's dice, plus any from voluntary corruption and items, get turned into wounds on the Sins player. The hero can divvy these up however he wants. If he has 7 wounds to deal out, he can put 3 on this abomination and 2 on each of these 2 acolytes. Or he can put all 7 on this avatar. If a hero dies, then his figure is removed from the game. A replacement dude is brought in to the start space. Any NPCs are dropped. Upgrade cards are temporarily returned to the center. Then the new hero can take the same amount from the center and equip his hero. Doesn't have to be the same ones the previous hero had. Turn tokens stay spent, and the city token stays where it is. So the heroes spend their actions moving, fighting, cleansing, and trying to accomplish their objectives for a win. The Sins player jumps in and reacts when he wants to. Once the heroes are done, and they don't have any extra turn tokens to spend, or don't want to spend their extra turn token, and the Sins player is out of reaction token, the turn ends and the end of turn effects happen. Everybody flips their tokens to the ready side. If the Sin player had any extra or unspent reaction tokens, he discards the excess. The heroes can save their extra turn tokens, which is cool. Now the Sin player gets to draw an amount of Sins cards equal to the amount of these altars that no heroes occupy. If a hero is in the same space, they prevent a card from being drawn. Positioning heroes on these is a good way to shut down some of the Sin's special arsenal and part of the tactics of the game. Then, the Sins player gets to summon monsters. He gets to bring back into play one monster per active hero. Although this Apocalypse track, and maybe Sins cards, can allow for extra reinforcement. Finally, the Apocalypse track moves up by 1. This is how the Sins player draws these Apocalypse cards. Most of these cards bring the Hell Club into play to fight with the Sins player. Usually the story moves up the track further at the end of a round for any heroes that were killed that round. You see, as the game goes on, the Sin gets more powerful. If it maxes out at 7, the heroes are taking 2 wounds and 2 corruption at the start of every activation. Another feature I love about this game, it keeps things tense and forces the Faith team to be proactive. The game goes back and forth like this until one side wins. So that's The Others by Cool Mini or Not. Now this game was one of my 2 most anticipated games of the year, and I was not disappointed. From when I read the rulebook, when the Kickstarter launched, I knew that this would be a game for me. The components, Simon is the best in the business. The best. They're better than Fantasy Flight. They keep upping their games with the miniatures. The rulebook is decent. After the first game, I didn't have to look anything up because it is such a streamlined rule set. In fact, I kind of want to know what Eric Lang dropped out of this game because it's so streamlined, it's so tight. I think that there was just so much work and thought put into the balance of this game. The balance in this game is a thing of beauty. Because you play a game like Descent or Imperial Assault, and you're kind of like hosting the game. You know, if you go all out, maybe the players don't have fun or they complain. In this one, the asymmetrical balance, whereas the Sins player, I can be right. I'm coming at you as hard as I can. And the very first game I played with my brother, that's what I said to him. I said, all right, I'm everything I got. I'm coming at you hard and fast, and you do the same. And he gave me a look like, what? And I told him it's the only way to really test the balance of this game. And almost every game I play could really go either way. It comes down to the wire most games. It's just exciting. It's an exciting game to play. The theme is so immersive that when I'm playing this game, I'm transported onto that board. I think the game scales really well. Playing 2 players one-on-one is just a really good 2-player asymmetrical game. It's really tense. Playing with more players is awesome too because it just adds to the social aspect of the game. And the players are like, oh, what should we do? This mission, that mission. And if they can't decide, guess what? The Sins player gets to make the decision for him, which is great. I like the player powers. All the different heroes all have their one special ability. It's just cool. It's just same theme in Arcadia Quest. Every hero's got their own ability. In fact, all the comparisons to Zombicide is hogwash. This game is adult Arcadia Quest. If I'm explaining how this game works to people that have played Arcadia Quest, I say, imagine Arcadia Quest. One player controls all the monsters, and the rest of the players play as a guild. You've got, kind of a leveling up system like Arcadia Quest has. You have your move 2 spaces, do an action, or do an action, then move 2 spaces, just like Arcadia Quest does. You've got like the payback reactions when you do a ranged fight. If you hit a bad guy, he runs up and attacks. I think that maybe even some of this game could have started out as Arcadia Quest, and then they just went a different route. So I know that Portal Games released designer journal on the process of getting Cry Havoc developed. I would love to see something similar from Eric Lang. He's always tweeting like, I threw away my favorite part of the game again. I want to know what he threw away from this game, and I want him to take some of that and add it into expansions later on. I hope that many, many more people love this game as much as I do, and they can justify supporting this game for years to come. As a negative, at first, the dice combat's a little bit finicky to get used to, like how many tentacles you roll and stuff like that. But once you're flowing and you're just like, okay, this many hits, that many defense, really it happens quick once you get into the flow of the game. So it's not even that bad of a thing. If you don't like dice chucking, Ameritrash extravaganzas, this game's not going to be for you. But if you're an Ameritrash fan, this is one of the best kind of games like this. So 2 huge thumbs up for me. Go out, get this game.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.